This is Unreal Engine 5.6, the newest version of Unreal Engine 5, and it's looking pretty insane. With each new version adding new and industry-moving features, there's a lot to like about it. But behind the realistic lighting, high-quality textures, and improvements to NPCs, Unreal Engine 5 has some downsides that do have me bring up the question, should this be the industry standard? Unreal Engine has just been around for a long time, the first version releasing all the way back in 1998 by Epic Games, but then in 2020, Unreal Engine got its fifth version, Unreal Engine 5. And I'm going to divide this with the good, the bad, and my more opinionated opinions. Starting with the good, games made in Unreal Engine 5 can look incredible with technologies like Nanite, their virtualized geometry tech, which this is an extremely simple version of what it does, but it allows for higher quality assets to be used, like maybe like movie quality assets, by rendering only certain clusters of the object depending on the camera view. Everything you see should be the highest quality it could be, and with Lumen, their global illumination and reflections technology, which uses software ray tracing but has the ability to use hardware ray tracing and even full path tracing. There are other features like their metahuman creator, which makes some of the most insane looking NPCs and characters that I've seen, and it shows pretty well. Fortnite was the first game to feature Lumen and Nanite, and when it first came out, I was surprised with how good it looked. Granted, it probably didn't fit the art style, but that was just a showcase. Other games like Black Myth Wukong and Expedition 33 were built from the ground up with Unreal Engine 5, and they do both look great. Wukong has to be one of the best looking games that I've played, thanks to things like Nanite, which make the world extremely dense. And the thing that stands out for me with Expedition 33 graphically, other than, everything else, but the characters in that game and the NPCs look insane. I haven't finished the game yet. I'm like literally only 2 hours in, so I haven't seen all the different places, but graphically it does look really good as well. And that leads me into the next positive, and that's accessibility for developers. Unreal Engine 5 is free, which is always extremely cool to see. While I'm sure it would help, you don't need to know how to code to even start on Unreal, and with their tech, it does make it a lot easier for smaller studios to make bigger and better looking games, regardless of their size, and a good example of that is Expedition 33. It's not just used for games as well. As Lumen and Nanite and their other technologies improve, they can be used for productions like movies, shows, or just CGI work. I'm not saying it's just going to be replacing things like Blender, 3ds Max, and other like 3D art softwares, but since it is a game engine, it's very good at doing things in real time, which is how it was used in The Mandalorian. They had a massive dome of panels, also known as the volume, with assets and backgrounds in the background to light the real set. With it being a game engine, say the director wants something moved, like a box, to just be moved to the left instead of being there on the right. That is just possible, and you're able to do that in real time with Unreal Engine 5. And as more and more studios do switch to Unreal instead of building their own engines, it means devs should be able to focus more time on the actual stuff in the game. But now, the bad. Yes, these games can look good, but only if you can run them. A lot of these games, especially at launch, run poorly regardless of spec, and while it's not Unreal's fault entirely, devs still have to optimize their games. It without a doubt raises the hardware requirements for a decent experience. One thing that is just an Unreal issue, I believe this happened even with Unreal Engine 4, it's the stuttering or frame spikes you get when you play games. If you don't really know what I'm talking about, it's the random just drops in FPS or your 1% lows when entering in a new area, or if you just haven't even opened up the game in a while. There are things in place like pre-shader compilations, but honestly for Unreal, I don't really see it helping. You do just kind of have to play the game and stay in that area for a bit for it to go away. Developers, big or small, sometimes see Unreal as an easy way out, in my opinion. It's really easy to make games look good in Unreal, but a lot of people just stop there, and I spoke a lot more in depth about the way that they try to get away with poor performance in my Why AI is Ruining Game Optimization video. Unreal Engine is built with upscaling and frame generation technologies in mind, and this really isn't Unreal Engine's fault. Since it is so hard to run sometimes, or developers just get lazy when it comes to optimization, they will literally just leave things like frame generation and or upscaling on by default. A recent game who is guilty of this is Wu Chong Fallen Feathers. This game literally came out July 23rd, and it had awful reviews mainly because of poor performance. They ended up doing a patch that aimed to fix poor performance, and they just put in forced upscaling. Daniel Owen made a video going over this a lot more in detail, and I'll leave a link down to that video below. Also, I don't know where I saw it, but in the Unreal Engine 5 website, it mentions how the engine is ready for next generation consoles, and this isn't talking about like the PS6 or Xbox whatever. This is talking about current gen, so the Xbox Series X and S and the PS5. When most Unreal Engine 5 games are locked to 30 FPS by default, at least all of the ones that I've seen have been, which 30 FPS to me is unplayable. It's not a good experience for me. me. And no, it's not because I'm a PC master race loser. It's because I know how miserable an experience that is. I played Art Survival Evolved at like 10 FPS for like 5 years on my Xbox. And guess what? That was an Unreal Engine 4 game that is known for being incredibly hard to run. And guess what again? Its remaster, Art Survival Ascended, which is now on Unreal Engine 5, has the same exact problems and even worse performance with forced frame generation on by default. And I'm sure there are a lot more objective problems with Unreal, especially on the game dev side of things. I'm just really not knowledgeable enough on that topic, so I'm really not even going to speak on that. But now I want to move on to my personal opinions, which yes, this has all been my opinions, but bad performance and bad optimization and games looking better, I feel like are kind of objective. We are definitely hitting a point of diminishing returns when it comes to graphics in games. I'm not on the side of, oh, old games look so much better, what happened? No, there are some outliers. Most older games fall short in a lot of areas, but what I do agree on is between older titles and newer Unreal Engine 5 titles. I would say most of Unreal doesn't justify the performance difference, especially if you can't even use the high enough settings to make it look better. Like a game even like Cyberpunk, which isn't the best optimized game in the world, the difference in performance between Cyberpunk at max settings with no ray tracing and Wukong max settings no ray tracing just aren't far enough apart to justify its performance cost. And another issue is not necessarily the fault of the engine, more so on the dev side, but a lot of the games just look so similar and also play very similar too. I feel like you can always just tell that's an Unreal Engine 5 game. Literally using Wukong as an example again, you can't tell me this game almost looks exactly like Wukong, and devs just don't do anything special as well. I don't know how in-depth the physics are in Unreal. I know things like destruction are pretty good, and the only game that uses it is the Finals, which is a well-optimized Unreal Engine 5 game that still looks pretty good. And I wish people would use the technology in Unreal and combine it with an interesting art style. The only game I've really seen do that is Expedition 33. But imagine something like Ghost of Yotai or Ghost of Tsushima. The art style of that game is honestly one of my favorites in every game that I've ever played. And the combination of the actual like technology side of things, so the lighting, the textures of Unreal, that combination would literally be the best looking game ever. But it's just faster and cheaper to just make a basic, boring, I guess, kind of looking game. I don't really see this changing. Unreal Engine 5 is taking over with big studios literally completely ditching their own engines. CD Projekt Red is switching over to Unreal Engine 5 instead of their in-house engine, Red Engine, that was used to make Cyberpunk 2077. For some reason, I thought that game looked extremely good. I don't really know why they needed to switch over to Unreal. But also for the Cyberpunk 2, they are completely ditching, at least the rumors, they are completely ditching their engine to switch over to Unreal Engine 5. And this could be a good thing. I honestly really like a lot of what is in Unreal Engine 5, and I think a lot of the games do look good. I am able to ignore a lot of the bad with my PC, but I do have to bring up the large amount of objective bad that it has with it. Other than performance, my biggest worry is that on the game dev side, with everyone using the same engine, it risks games no longer being unique. But that is all I have for today. I hope you all enjoyed. Peace.